You are welcome to yet another episode of LFN What's Your Say? The #1 listening show where we discuss real issues with real people like you. We are still featuring R. Kelly. Real name Robert Sylvester Kelly. Also known as the R&B King. Of all the friendships R. Kelly ever made during his career, the most questionable is that with famous rapper Jay-Z. It's one thing for a friend to be unreliable, and this is already bad enough. But it's another thing altogether for a friend to become the lead cause of your departure from this world, especially when they team up with your enemies that wish to suck life out of you and leave you for dead. It's very difficult to discuss R. Kelly's current ordeals and not mention the name Jay-Z, for he seems to be right at the center of whatever is happening to the R&B king. What a coincidence that it's Jay-Z's old-time buddy Dream Hampton that produced the surviving R. Kelly documentary. And what a coincidence that Jay-Z had all along been financing her operations like he did when she mobilized protesters in Baltimore during the Black Lives Matter campaign. This surely gives enough reason for anyone to suspect foul play from the famous rapper who most likely sponsored Dream's surviving R. Kelly production. Picture evidence reveals the two great artists R. Kelly and Jay-Z had both been close to the late singer Aaliyah. Whether their beef with each other started back then is rather hard to tell, but there is no doubt whoever made the two believe they could work together, and produce two albums like they tried to without conflicting with each other did them a disservice. In fact, the two would later on conflict over this and that, and like that, their false dream of ever working together hit a deadlock during their Best of Both Worlds tour, an event which sparked their ultimate conflict that saw the two end up in court. Like we have mentioned before, R. Kelly sued Jay-Z for $75 million, but eventually Jay-Z chose to settle out of court. R. Kelly's worst mistake was to imagine that this was all over after causing Jay-Z substantial financial loss resulting from his lawsuit. There is no doubt rapper Jay-Z did not get over it, meaning the tension would later return to bite hard on the R&B king. It's always important to remember that the enemy never comes from very far. Even if it hurts so much to learn that a person you once worked with this closely can wish you life to death in prison, which is clearly what Jay-Z wishes for R. Kelly. By working with him, it allowed him access to identify areas where he could easily take advantage to defame him and implement his long-awaited revenge. R. Kelly's failure to realize he was only being snaked by his so-called colleague in the industry in the name of friendship, and one who was never a real friend, is very likely the reason we are having this conversation right now. I wouldn't blame it much on R. Kelly, for he was only an artist and ready to do all kinds of collaborations he felt were going to move him from here to there. Instead, I blame it all on his managers, who should have advised him otherwise. There is no doubt that R. Kelly was the only snag keeping Jay-Z from being recognized as the all-round greatest of all time. He must have imagined with R. Kelly in prison, all focus would then turn to him. And indeed he has caught the attention, only in the wrong way. Everyone now knows how vengeance he can get and what he is capable of doing when crossed. The famous rapper seems to be beyond determined to destroy the R&B king, as if that will allow him to replace him, which is only a myth. It's no wonder when every other person is speaking on R. Kelly, or taking action by dropping their collaborations with loud announcements, Jay-Z on the other hand has remained mute with the false hope that people will eventually forget the most obvious, and imagine he was never involved after all. But perhaps if it hadn't been Dream Hampton, who has always done his errands on the task, and whose works he has always funded, the world would be tempted to give it a benefit of doubt and imagine that maybe, and only maybe, he was never a part of this. It wouldn't have been Jay-Z to do this to R. Kelly, but like we said before, the enemy never comes from far. It's always that person you call friend that will stab you in the back wishing you death and nothing else, for they know exactly which buttons to press after mastering all your weaknesses. Let this be a lesson therefore to guide us as we connect with friends and family. And if something sinister ever happens to you, you probably will not be looking very far away from yourself for the perpetrator. According to Malcolm, I happen to be a fan of Jay-Z and have tried so much not to believe that he could have been the architect of R. Kelly's current legal ordeals. Sad to say, all fingers are pointing directly at him. I am lost for words, and I do not know what to think of him and other people who will be quick to betray their old friends like he has done. We all know R. Kelly is not necessarily guilty for the charges he was indicted with. Rico and Mann Act are way too alien to his case. There was just no basis for the trial court to conclude that R. Kelly did operate an illegal enterprise that was primarily involved in illegal operations. Unless they are suggesting that if anyone ever plans to become a criminal in their lifetime, they should never even try to start up any sort of legal business. The only organized business R. Kelly operated was his music. The multiple women and domestic matters were entirely his personal life. It's no wonder we do not hear any accusers saying she was abused by anyone else but him. This is not because they were actually abused by R. Kelly, but because it was only with him that they were in relationships that later turned sour, and this is why all this mishap is happening. I have never seen a relationship that ends prematurely and the woman says everything was all right with the man. To bring up all these domestic and personal grievances by his divorcees and assume crime out of their respective complaints is not just unfair to the defendant, but also a total abuse of the laws of this land. I am not sure I will ever forgive Jay-Z once it's confirmed that he was involved in this assassination of the R&B king. It doesn't really matter what someone has done to you in the past. Wishing them death in prison is completely out of order. He should also remember that by handing Kelly over to his Sony enemies like that, he could easily end up taken out like what happened to Michael Jackson. According to Shantae, I did watch that devious documentary, the so-called final chapter on Lifetime 9 months ago. Interestingly though, I did not find myself feeling any sympathy for the so-called victims, for I could see right through them. I can't believe the parents aren't held accountable yet, for it's them that committed real crimes here. They sold their daughters out in exchange for fame and fortune, even if R. Kelly was not willing to buy. As for Jay-Z, it's sad that he is remaining mute about this matter. You really do find out who your friends are when such things happen to you? Thanks LFN Media. Thank you so much for keeping us updated about this topic. Mr. Kelly will be vindicated, and those who have plotted against him will be sent to hell on a non-stop roller coaster. If you wish to take part in a live interview discussing any of these topics, let us know by sending an email to sashalfnmedia@gmail.com for scheduling. Thank you for watching today's video, a production of LFN Media, giving you another perspective of issues at hand. We make it our business to keep you updated with the truth amidst the cloud of lies the media wants you to believe. It is therefore important to subscribe to this channel, hit the bell icon and allow all notifications so that you don't miss out whenever we publish a new video.